All right, friends. Hello. Coming together here a little late today, but that's okay. If you're watching the replay, you didn't even notice. I'm going to pull up comments real quick. And while I'm getting that set up, kind of give you a little intro here about what we're going to talk about today, which is sex. Now, if you've been watching this weekly live stream for a while, which, let's see, I don't know, that must have been like over a year ago. I had a sex expert on, a sex therapist, and we talked about sex in terms of like adult partners and infertility and just in general, kind of how to keep it fresh. Today I'm going to talk about sex and how we originally talk about it, like for the first time, learn about it, explore it, and yeah. Why is this coming up? Well, if you know, we have a 13-year-old in the house, and it has come to my attention that I will have to give that talk. I will have to, at some point, have a talk about sex, and that may be super duper embarrassing. Not for me. I'm fine. Pulling up comments still. But the possibility of it being very embarrassing for the teenager is a very real possibility. However, I did some extra homework. So that person that I just mentioned, that sex therapist, guess what? I booked an appointment with her and talked through my feelings and my plans on how I am going to have that talk. And I'm really glad that I did that. And I do not think that most people do that, but I would like to encourage you, if you're coming to a point where you may need to have that sex talk with your kids or even someone that may come to you for advice, whether it's like a niece or nephew or, friend of the family. Sometimes kids feel more comfortable talking to someone else other than their parents about it. So maybe even it's a younger sibling. But the thing is we usually give advice based on our own experiences. And I don't know, is anybody here an expert on sex and bodies? And did you have all the answers when you were a teenager? And can you think back about how you wish maybe someone had explained some of this stuff to you a little bit better? CK, great question. Luckily, I have a friend that does this. So honestly, guys, if you want to have this conversation with a real person, her name is LK, and she's absolutely awesome. And you can schedule an appointment with her. Her website is called sexforhumans.com. Let me actually just fact check that real quick. Sex for Humans. Don't worry, I'll do this on my browser so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, it will not take you to porn. Sexforhumans.com. She does intimacy and sex coaching, but she does this with couples, individuals. She helps people build their dating profiles, and then the last service she offers is something called sex education, and she works with the adults, not the kids, on what sex education is. So it's kind of a different service, right? That, I mean, who knew that even existed? Brilliant. I think every parent should have to take a course in how to talk about this before they talk about it. So sexforhumans.com. So LK gave me a full hour of very helpful dialogue. Conversation is the word I'm looking for. I am exhausted, but I'm fine. I'm hanging in there. The conversation was, here's how mine went. And I think this is pretty much how a very useful or productive conversation like this should go. One is start exploring my, sexual history, when I started, how it went, like any traumas involved, my outlook on it, how much I know and everything. Start there, right? And then what is my view on approaching this topic with the person I need to have the talk with? And then the sex therapist, the professional licensed person who can talk about this, will help you make some connections on how to be aware what you're bringing into that conversation based on your own history. So there's also a lot of helpful stuff like right? Consent is a huge thing, right? Pleasure is a big thing. Those weren't part of the conversation when I was growing up. I mean, we had sex ed class in middle school and in high school, and I don't ever remember the teacher saying, hey, make sure when you're having sex it feels good. And hey, if you don't want to have sex, here's a few different ways to say no and how to like stick to it, and how, having sex does not define you as a woman. And also, sex doesn't have to be with the opposite sex. And also, you can have your own feelings about what, gender you feel that you are. None of that was part of the conversation before. And now it's starting to become part of the conversation. I know it's kind of controversial, but the truth of the matter is that if kids don't have a safe place to talk about these things, these thoughts they're having, these feelings, these things they're exploring on their own bodies, they may not end up in a good situation, right? They need to have somebody they can go to, trust to have a private conversation and explore that in a non-shameful way, in a judgment-free zone. So that's another part, is no shame, right? So this is I don't want to get too much into why I have to explore this, because I want to respect privacy, but I am very curious. I would love to crowdsource here, guys. If you can dig into your traumatic past, it may not be traumatic, but how did you learn about sex? What do you remember from having that talk? Who gave you the talk? Did you ever get the talk? Did you, how did you find out information about sex? I would love to know where you got your information from. And yes, things have totally changed a lot in the last 25 years. So no, that's why this is going to be a fun experiment, right? We're going to see some of the older people's responses, hopefully, some of the younger people's responses here, and kind of see how this has evolved and how it continues to evolve. I would absolutely love any little tidbits here. Okay, Kelly's saying she never had the talk. So Kelly, I want to follow up and just say, if you don't mind, how did you learn things then? Did you just figure it out on your own? And do you feel like I don't know, looking back on it now, I feel like I may have put myself in a lot of very risky situations, that had I had, I don't know, if there was, more of an awareness about, what high school kids and teenage kids were actually doing, if someone had actually sat down with me and I don't know, if we could have that, shame-free conversation. I wonder what things have been safer. So I'm just curious, I don't know if you can expand on that at all. Sorry if I'm putting you in a weird position. I know I'm being very vulnerable about my history too, today. And hi guys, hello to everybody that's watching. Marcus and Kelly, Denise, Laura, CK, Kim, thank you so much for popping in, and Pete. So I'm very, I don't know, this is such a weird conversation to have without hearing voices. And I'm going to kind of, well, if anyone is so brave to put their comments in there, while you guys put that in, I'll kind of catch you up on what the last week has been like. I told you last Monday that I had to do stand up for the first time on Wednesday. It went well. I'm really sorry there's not video yet to share. There is 2 people that recorded, one's in vertical, one's in horizontal, but neither of them have been completely shared with me yet, so I can't post them. But I did well, and it was fun, and I think I might actually try it again. It's not one of those things where I can just tell a joke. What I did is I built my set as kind of an interaction with the audience, so I cannot duplicate it here. You will have to watch the video and wish that you were there, or pretend that you were there. On Thursday, had my company party, and we left our teenage daughter home alone for an extended period of time for the first time, and I was a little nervous. I just wasn't sure. Not that I think she'd have people over or destroy the house or anything like that, but we all kind of take the opportunity when we're alone and when, and that's rare, to do something different, I think, right? Don't we all do that? So she took the opportunity to take a bath, and I was just so happy. That's some self-care. In our house, bath's on the first floor, so it's kind of awkward if you're taking a bath and everyone else is kind of, I don't know, right outside the door. Not right outside the door, that would be weird, but on the same floor. If it was upstairs and away from people, it'd be different. But So I kind of like, I was like, oh, good. Some self-care. I love that. I applaud that. So Friday, we hosted a bingo in person for Sparks' rehearsal dinner. He was getting married, or he got married on Saturday. And so we hauled all of our bingo stuff over to this event space. And it was so nice to hear the audience, when I was doing bingo, because we've been doing virtual bingo for so long, and we only done it in person, I think 2 times, 3 times, maybe four, a handful tops, but plenty of times virtual. We can't hear anyone on the other side. So it was actually a very, like, I don't know, rewarding experience to be able to do that in front of people. I'm so sorry I cannot spit my words out today. So that went well. Went home pretty early. My parents were watching our daughter for the weekend. Thank you again, Mom and Dad, because, we have had her for almost 3 months, and, we jumped right in. There was no like, hey, in a week you're going to have kids in the house. So it was kind of like a change of lifestyle so quick. So it was really nice just to have like a couple nights by ourselves. I guess we have been away from them one other time for a trip, but that was different. It wasn't at home. So we were at home, we were like, well, we can stay out late. We can go out for some late night drinks or something. No, we came home. We still went to bed at like our normal time. It was just quieter. It was not, and it was just, I don't know. I kind of missed her a little. Like, I don't know. She's become part of the home, the family. So, and then Saturday we went to the wedding and had a blast. We watched a lot of World Cup soccer over the past few days, and it's been so exciting. And I am exhausted. Well, and then yesterday, on top of everything, we played soccer and then went out to the suburbs to go pick her up. So we really have not had any downtime, other than, coming home early from wherever we were and going straight to bed. So that's where I'm at with things, guys. I don't know if you cared, but that's it. All right, so here's, I'm going to go back to this kind of like how you guys had the talk or found out about sex. So here we go. Kelly's saying, yes, I was definitely in risky situations too. I've always been a self-starter though. So I can totally relate to this. And I now, as adult at my age, and even for years now, have been like, holy shit, how did I not get pregnant, not get, diseases or sick or infections? I don't know. Like, I was not careful. I did not know. I mean, like, the only sex talks that we had in school were like, like wear a condom and, I can't remember, like, oh, and then they would tell us about all the STDs. So it would be kind of like, I don't know, okay, fine, wear a condom, but I don't know. We didn't think anyone else had STDs at our age, so I don't even know. Like, not, and I hope I'm not painting a picture that like I was just like, that's all I was doing in high school. That's not the case. But I don't think I don't think I put myself in good situations. And I'm very lucky that nothing really, 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 really bad happened. I could have been murdered. Who knew, There's some really sick people out there. Okay. CK. My mom told me, and she had no boundaries. That's awesome. But I will say she was good about sex. Should be enjoyable. And you don't have to do it if you don't want. I love that. That is so important. Follow-up question, Kelly and CK. Well, I guess not Kelly, but CK. Since your mom had no boundaries, did you guys talk about masturbation? And how was that approached? Oh, man. Okay, Dad. 55 years ago, no older sibling, all boys high school, parents that did not talk about sex, no internet. It was difficult. Yeah, sounds like you had to figure it all out on your own. Oh, man. How scary is that, right? For the first time and having no examples. And I mean, even like movies these days are extremely suggestive. I mean, you could watch PG-13 movies and sneak into rated R movies and kind of have a general idea of how this works. I don't think that was the case back then. But then again, I don't know what movies were like 55 years ago. Yeah. So now, okay, so the reason I ask about masturbation, CK, is I think, I don't know, like, it's the idea to me for a very long time was that, girls don't masturbate, boys do. But I'll be honest here, like, I did, and I didn't know that that was normal. And so I never talked to anybody about it. In fact, even to this day, the fact that I'm saying this right now to you is, it's like I'm having an out of body experience right now. This is not normal. But like, it's normal, and it's relief, and it's pleasure, and it's like so healthy. And I'm not saying if you don't do it, like, that's unhealthy. I'm just saying, but if you do, that is great. Exploring your own body, knowing what you like, finding those things, that's not only good just for you, but when you have a partner, being able to know what you like so you can tell them what to do so it feels good for you too. Like, this is how that healthy sex kind of comes together. So, like, I don't know, I'm making a push, guys. If you're gonna have a talk about sex with your kids, include masturbation, include that, and don't build any shame around it. Okay, I'm getting some other comments here. Okay. Oh, CK, this is amazing. Yes, she did. She also talked about toys and foreplay and how else to satisfy someone that is not intercourse. That's amazing. Yes, talking about these topics where it doesn't have to be intercourse, but you can still be very intimate with people. I love that, because sex, it does feel like sex has to be intercourse. Like when you go all the way, like they talk about, first base, second base, going all the way, home run, all this. It doesn't have to be that, like if I had known that too, oh God, I wish I could do that part over. I really do. And she showed you how to put on a condom. Huge, huge. I mean, especially if you find yourself in a situation where your partner doesn't know how to do it properly. And also then that way, you're being safe, protecting against, life changes before you're ready for them. Okay, mom's sharing. Sex ed in school, 5th grade. Guess not really sex ed, more of changing bodies and starting menstruation. Great. The fact that they talked about that is huge. Told my mom, and she was glad she didn't have to have the talk with me. Oh my God. Yeah, a lot of times I do feel like, yeah, because there's those mandatory, 5th grade middle school, and I forgot about the 5th grade one. I do remember there was like a plastic like model of a woman's reproductive parts, right? And how they tried to show us how to use, I think, a tampon. No, it would have been too early for a tampon. What was that for? I don't even think I could understand what we were learning at that age. But man, I gotta tell you guys, the first time I used a tampon, I didn't know how to use it. That was humiliating. So I would have loved for someone to show me how to do that. Now, guess what I found online, guys? They make period packs for parents to have that talk with their kids. I probably could learn something from these period packs. Honestly, like, they send you a whole bunch of different sizes, what they're for, how to find out what the best fit for you is, everything. So, like, there's literally kits out there so parents can have talks about menstruation with their daughters. It's incredible. I love it. I love it so much. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get one of those packs. That's happening. I might have to, I'm not sure how this episode's going to go down in history. Okay. If I heard some terms used at school, I would ask my mom, and she'd explain a lot in detail. CK, it sounds like you had like the perfect like picture, mom, of how to have these sex talks. Did you feel at all like there was any shame at all in any part of this? Were there any things your mom told you not to do? It doesn't seem like that's kind of her vibe, but I'm just curious if there was any parts of it that was like, hey, these are the no-no areas. Oh, interesting. So Kelly learned about masturbation and toys from a boyfriend after high school, so relatively late. Yeah. Interesting that you learned from a boyfriend. That's really fascinating. I want to hear more of that story. I don't know if you want to share it here, Kelly, but I'm very curious about that too. How you learn about like female masturbation from a boyfriend. Yeah. I love that we are having this talk, guys. Okay. And Mom asked when CK had the talk, and CK said when she was 10 or 11, around when she got her period. Yeah. I don't remember when I got my period. I don't remember. I feel like it was later than that, though. I think I was like 13. I don't know. I don't remember. I'd really have to do some digging. Oh, Marcus. In Switzerland, there were TV commercials showing how to put on a condom. They used a banana as a prop. I love that. Like, here, whole society, let's teach you how to be safe with sex and just show it. I don't think that they allow that here in the United States. I don't think I've ever seen something like that. There'd be so many people that'd be like, oh, you can't teach that? That's incredible. I really like that. Okay, so this is how I'm kind of remembering it too. I got my period very late at 17 because I was so involved in sports. That's a thing. If you're very athletic, you even hear about some like gymnasts who stay so small and fit that they don't ever get their period. Well, they don't get their period until like very late. But I think maybe this is, Kelly, maybe this was my case too, because I don't remember getting my period until high school for some reason, like freshman year. I feel like I was like 13 or 14, maybe 12. So before you did, but just compared, I was looking at CK's Sing when she was 10 or 11, so that's what I was wondering about. All right, it was more focused on you should be in love or not love per se. But it's about a relationship and not just one night stand. Okay, that's important too. So I think I saw my dad's comment, and I don't think we should talk about this at Christmas. Let's keep this here, okay? Let's lock this conversation in a vault. I'm just kidding. Like, no, the more we can talk about, like, I don't know. There's an appropriate time for this conversation. But I do want to talk about what CK is saying here, about who to have sex with, and also like a trust factor. Oh my God, if there was social media around the time when I was in high school, like, that would have been horrible. Like, rumors just by word of mouth at my age were like, or at, in high school were bad enough. Like, if there were social media to like just amplify that, I don't know if I would have survived. Like one, if you kiss one person and they just did it because they wanted to kiss someone and then they go and tell everyone, then all of a sudden you girls are automatically a slut or a whore or all those horrible, horrible names that only get generally assigned to girls and not to the boys. That was definitely my experience of it. It crushed me. It crushed me in a few times, thinking that I was having, a meaningful, exchange with somebody, and it was not. And then it was very hard to recover from that, especially if you've got no one else to talk to about it because you don't know who you can trust. And if you haven't had that conversation openly with mom and dad, like how are you supposed to talk about that without being scared of getting shamed even further or getting in trouble, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, social media today, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. So that's a big part of the conversation now. It's like when you talk about, sex and everything, part of the conversation has to be like, hey, what you put out there, will always be out there. Even if you delete it right away, if someone else saw it, it can be seen by everybody. And that's unfortunate. That's unfortunately the truth. This, just like this video. Not that this is an unfortunate video, but like a lot of these things, like I can't take this back. Yeah. Okay. So my mom started period in 5th grade. Mom never told me about tampons. Didn't start using them till late in high school. Yeah. Mom, I don't remember ever having a conversation with you about tampons. I remember trying to figure that out on my own. And to be really gross here, like stuck the whole thing up, didn't realize there was a part to take out, didn't know what I was doing. So it was just a mess, honestly. I learned that the hard way. But it comes with an instruction booklet. So when you mess it up the first time, you're like, maybe I should read this piece of paper that's, folded into a million times into this roadmap of fine print. Yeah. Oh, Mom, I'm not trying to guilt you at all. This is not your fault. I think that this is a hard thing for all parents, and there's only an awareness more recently about talking about it more. And I'm thankful that like in schools there are kids that are transgender, and that it's becoming a conversation about kids and sex and preferences. And I also think that sex ed now in schools is a much different conversation. I think it's a lot more inclusive. It addresses LGBTQ and A, and when kids say that that they're A, and I hope A still stands for ally. I think that that's wonderful too. Is that they're teaching it to all the kids so that they understand, hey, like sex is normal. And there's a safe way to do it, and we need to be inclusive and not shame people. I don't think that message is getting through to everyone, by the way, but I am friends with somebody who's a sex ed teacher, and she was telling me that is part of what the curriculum now. So yeah. Oh, Mom, stop it. Just stop. Just stop. You're fine. Don't feel bad. Look, I turned out fine. I'm certainly not pouring this all out here in a means to, I don't know, say anything bad about your parenting style. And I'm really sorry if that's how it's coming. I am 100% saying this is a really difficult conversation to have. And if I'm going to do anything productive with this channel, I'm going to try and bring some attention to a really, really tough thing to talk about. So, oh God. All right. Oh my God. Okay. Yes. And this too. I love this song that's out right now. I think it's by Jax. Is it Jax or Jax? I think it's Jax. And it's the Victoria's Secret song. Have you guys heard this one? Girls and women are objectified on TV, movies, and the internet, and in songs too, right? And I love the song. It's so powerful. The main line is, I know Victoria's Secret, it was made up by a dude. And, it goes on and talks about, like I wouldn't have starved myself and been just skin and bones and big boobs and stuff. And that was when I was in high school, like Victoria's Secret was like, hey, we have to have sexy stuff. Like that was a thing. It was in every single mall. And like it was in my head, like pretty means skinny. And I have no idea if that's, I don't know, like if I think that I've always been like, hey, I need to, keep my weight down. Like this is why. I don't know why. Like I've always been athletic and luckily kind of naturally on the thinner side, I suppose. But it's still in my brain that as I get older and I'm like my body's just changing, like I think something's wrong with me when I'm looking down and my thighs are bigger than they used to be. And I'm like, oh God, I got to get back to working out. Like why is that in my brain rather than going, hey, I feel really healthy right now because I'm eating well, I'm getting a ton of sleep, and I'm still very active. Like, why is it that what our body looks like is so, I don't know. And this is not just women, by the way. This is men too. Bert has made many comments to me. When there's like a man on TV and they've got like, shirts off and they're all like oiled up and perfect. And he's like, don't look, that is not what men are supposed to, that is not a normal looking man. But yeah, like this is that. And I think that's a big part of it too, is like teach that sexy bodies are every shape of body. Oh my God, guys, look at this. I'm getting all fired up here. But let me carry that one step further and talk about porn, because this was another thing, because I was watching YouTube videos. Okay, that sounded bad, but hang in there with me. But they were TED Talks, and one of them was about porn and how, boys, when they find this porn and they see some of these more aggressive things that are happening, they think that that's what sex is supposed to be like. So they try to do that with girls. And then if girls have also watched porn, or not, when they're having their first interactions, they think, oh, this must be normal. And the girls will not, and they know that in the porn that the boys have a finish, that there's an end to it, and that's not necessarily at all part of the thing for the girls. And what are these girls doing in porns? They're going, oh, oh, making all these noises, which is also not what everyone does. And so then boys think, well, if the girl's not making that noise when I'm having sex with her, like, what's the matter? Like, what's the matter with her? And then again, just kind of turns into this, like, these false expectations and blowing up into, shame, a lot of shame on both ends, like, what did the boy do wrong and what did the girl do wrong, and being uncomfortable with it, and then just going through these motions. And it was an excellent TED Talk. I hope I recapped it pretty well here, but I, like, hearing that, I can go like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, where do we learn, how to have healthy, pleasurable sex? And there's not, like, I talked to LK about that. I'm like, it's not like there's a movie out there you can watch me like, hey, here's how to actually do it. Because that's not what they're showing in sex ed. Oh my God. So I think the important part is those conversations. Those conversations CK was having with her mom, where she's like, hey, pleasure is important. Having a connection with your partner is important. So maybe CK, I need to have you and your mom just on the channel, like, do an episode here about, like, how to have that conversation, because I really feel like you guys modeled that well. Okay, good. And she's saying this here, porn was a no-no. My mom says it ruins what should be a very intimate and special thing between you and your partner. Okay, so I will say there are some benefits to porn, but I don't think again, you have to be very careful not to shame anything, right? If you tell a kid who's been watching porn that they can't watch porn anymore, then there's shame around that. Makes sex complicated whenever there's shame involved. However, in porn, as long as you understand that it's fictional, right? Watching it can help you understand other things that turn you on. Like, maybe you didn't know watching two women was something that made your body excited. Like, you feel different things. Maybe watching two men do that, makes you a little bit more aroused. Or watching three people do it together, or, whatever, like touching different things, or whatever, seeing different things, or getting an idea on where to touch yourself. And so so there are some benefits there, kind of going back to that, like, how to find pleasure for what feels good for you. Yeah. Oh, CK, I'm sorry. Maybe we'll have you on as a guest and give the spiel on her behalf. Maybe that would be it. Okay. So I get it. I think my mom didn't share and was very uncomfortable with sex and changing bodies. It carried over to me. I think I would handle it much better now. I 100% think you would, Mom. I really do. I think I mentioned this last week too. It's like and I'm sorry, I'm talking to Mom right now, guys. Everyone else turn away. But our relationship has evolved into this amazing thing that, like, I don't think other people share what we share now. As two adult women who have emotionally evolved into a connection that, like, I think is so very special. I know a lot of parents and their kids grow apart as they age, but you and I, we've grown extremely close as adults. Not that we weren't close growing up, but no, our relationship now is extremely special. So, and I know you would do things different. You were also a very young mom with me. Like, guys, my mom was 21 when she had me. 22. When I was 22, I didn't know the F I was doing at all. Like, it wasn't until I hit 30 that I thought I kind of had things figured out. And now as I'm approaching 40, I'm like, oh, now I'm stable. I mean, if I think back, if I had a kid at 22, they'd be 18, almost 18 now. My God. I even think about the age difference between me and the 13-year-old I have right now and go, wow, I don't know that I was mature enough to have a kid at that age. And that was in my 30s or 20s, late 20s. It would have been 26. So anyway, Mom, you had me at a very young age, and you were still, I appreciated that. You were a very young mom, and I really appreciated that. Okay, enough of this side talk. I have to talk to everyone now. Okay. Maybe you can just let your daughter watch this before the talk. It may pave the way to starting the talk. Maybe I should just be like, hey, just leave this on the TV so she can watch it when we're away. That's not a bad idea, actually. Okay, so I think my mom spoke from her experience. She was a go-go dancer. I didn't think she wanted me to make the mistakes she did. That, CK, is incredible. And also, let's not call it a mistake, though, right? Unless she called it a mistake, but that's another really big thing I need to be careful of as well. I brought that up is there's a very high percentage of youth in care that end up in sex trafficking situations or trying to make money, for themselves by doing things. And that terrifies me so much. And I talked to LK about that, my fear about that. She goes, well, you need to be very careful because, sex workers can make a lot of money. They can do very well for themselves. There are those, very scary situation where, they end up in a bad situation. They're stuck. They can't get out. They're abused. They don't get that money. Someone else does. And they're hurt, physically and everything like that. But there is space within that industry for it not to be a shameful experience and not to be a dangerous experience. And I have to be careful because I don't know the history of my daughter, her family, or friends, or anyone that she knows. And I have to be very careful then, not to be shameful about any of that. So even though it's that's why I was telling you at the very beginning, having the talk about my history, I plan to have the talk, and then, being aware of like my feelings and how that talk goes, you have to be careful. So this is not easy to do, for anybody. And, even bringing in a therapist that can kind of guide you through it, it's still not going to be perfect. So anyone that's out there that's listening and has this talk, or is thinking about having the talk, don't worry. It's something will not be perfect, and that is okay. Just keep an open mind like CK's mom. That's my advice from somebody that hasn't done it yet. But I will drop, just in case, anyone came in late, if you are thinking about having the talk with someone, you want to have kind of like a little, a professional to run a, do a dry run with, not really a dry run, but like talk about this before you have the talk. Sex for Humans, book an appointment with LK. It's called a sex ed session. You only have to do one, and you will be feeling a lot better about it. I had also asked about suggestions for toys, and she was able to do that, which is fantastic too. So, guys, it's a new world out there, and let's keep talking about sex. Not here on this channel all the time, but just don't be afraid to embrace that conversation. Okay, that was fun. Yeah. And yeah, so I see this comment, true. That's the way we were trained by our parents. That bringing in how your parents taught you into how you're having the conversation with your kids, having an awareness of that, it's going to be really helpful. So just keep that in mind. It actually kind of serves me very well because I didn't have those talks and I found myself in those bad situations. So I think that's even more of a reason why I have such an awareness to have those talks with my kids. So see, mom and dad, you did it right. You still did it right. It's, it's being passed on to the next generation, the healthiness of it. So it's all good. Oh God. I'm picturing their faces right now and it's tearing me apart inside. I'm going to wrap this up soon because I think Bert's got dinner and I also don't want to, I don't know, I feel a little uncomfortable. But that's what we're here for. Okay. Also, okay. Yeah, no, that's it. Any other comments, guys, please share if you've just been kind of sitting on the sidelines, and if there's anything else you want to add, please, take a minute to go ahead and do that. It's a safe environment, even though I'm being super weird. But I know that there's we have a good audience here today, so please there's no shame. And, I don't have to put it up on the screen if you don't want to either. Oh yeah, CK, I know. I'm not going to answer. Just kidding. Um, it's okay. We have to have that conversation. If mom and dad want to have a conversation about it, we can have a conversation. Just a thought. You may want to download all of these subjects at once. Maybe keep it simple and leave the door open for follow-ups. It's a good question for LK. Okay, I actually did ask her about that. I said, so, how much of this should we do? So here's the thing. You have to have, okay, let me give you another tip here. This one I already knew from our foster parent training. When you're having these conversations that can be super uncomfortable, it's called a parallel conversation. So get into a position where you're walking side by side. Go for a drive. If you go for a drive and it's a long one, they can't get out of a moving car. It's a perfect opportunity to talk about this stuff, but it also may make them feel very trapped. But when you're having the conversation, you need to also be receptive to how they're responding to it. So if they're feeling really uncomfortable, bringing in your own experience or stories or feelings about it might help make it easier. Because if they feel like you're just talking about them, they might feel like uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. So I actually talked to LK about that, and basically, if it started to feel uncomfortable, I would say, hey, look, when I was your age, and I can say, like, I didn't have this kind of a talk, and I think it would have been really, really helpful. Or, in this particular thing, that these things didn't even exist at that time. And I wish, that, this, had been a little bit different, or speak from an experience that actually happened. Now, I'm not going to give her a lot of details on that stuff, but you can say things like, generally, from your past, so that they understand that, oh yeah, that's right, this person's had sex before or has experience in this area, and maybe they can offer me some useful information. So it's parallel conversation. If you feel them getting too uncomfortable, switch the conversation and say, hey, we can talk about this later. But I just wanted to let you know I'm open at all times. See if they come to you, Don't push it. If you push it, it's going to make it awkward. But I don't think you should jam everything down in one talk. The hope is that you can introduce, some of this material, the most important ones first, like the ones that are more pressing, the ones you're most concerned about, I suppose. And then make that a comfortable conversation so that they feel more comfortable coming to you to talk about other things. Or so that you can say, hey, like, have you had your period? Do you want to, do you need more materials? Do you want to have a chat about that real quick? Or, hey, I noticed, at my age, I had started to explore my body. Have you started to do that yet? So anyway, I think that, yeah, like, not doing it all at once would be probably a better approach. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Trap them in the car so they can't go anywhere when you start to say words like masturbation. The funny thing for me was like, I was like, I don't even want to date. I'm focused on getting into college. Even as a sixth grader, I was focused on college. CK, that's awesome. And that's the other thing too, is I knew how different I was from at least my sister. As far as like being curious, at least, well, I can't say for sure, but I think that I was a little bit more curious about things before she was. And I think she was just more focused on books, and I was more interested in boys. And everyone's different. It's like, it's such a spectrum, and it's not yes or no or on or off. It's, yeah. Okay, thanks, Mom, for saying this, because I was not sure. And I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Oh, good. Sigh of relief. Okay, so this is a happy note. So my parents, I mentioned before, they watched our daughter for 2 nights while Bert and I had to attend, wedding stuff. So they had a great experience with her, playing games and doing crafts, making cookies. You mentioned what a great weekend you had. I want to add, our weekend was absolutely amazing. Hope everyone else had a good weekend too. So I do hope everyone had a great weekend. I'm going to go have dinner now. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and getting through this very vulnerable conversation. CK, thank you so much for sharing as much as you did. Hats off to your mom, and it's absolutely awesome. I really appreciate you sharing what you did. Guys, I will see you next Monday. Bert and I have a broom ball game tonight, so I better go get ready. Dinner and get ready. I'll talk to you later. Bye.